Hey guys, Gabriel here from Cerealkillerz. We're at the Vienna Comic Con with Clive Standen. And yeah, let's jump right into your video game appearances, because we read about video games and it's a perfect theme for to start the interview. You had an appearance in Warhammer 40k, Space Marine. Could you give us any behind-the-scenes impressions? How was it for you to do voice acting?
Yeah, well, Space Marine 2 was still in production, so I'm still working on it. It's fantastic because most of the Warhammer 40k games have always been like from the perspective of above, like a strategy game where you kind of feel outside the action and you're looking down on it. Whereas this one is created by Saber Interactive, who are behind the World War Z game. So they have this incredible spawning engine that they developed for that game, and they've incorporated it into Space Marine 2. So when I was working on it when I first came in, I didn't see any footage. I was just in a recording studio doing motion capture and full body motion capture. So my face has got all the dots, and so the character will move and talk like me. But it's a larger than life character, so I'm really committing to this character, and I'm like, can I see some of the footage? Because then it'll make the world a bit more sense. And they're like, it's top secret, but we'll show you some. And I was blown away. I can't tell you who the Space Marines are fighting in this because that's still top secret, and I'll leave that to Games Workshop to kind of release that info. But there was lots of them, and they're spawning and they're coming at me, and it's really full on. It's one of those games where it's total immersion, and the weapons, you've got the chainsword and you've got all these amazing blasters, and the game is set up where you're roaming around and you can see like ships dropping off Space Marines and soldiers, everywhere you look, and you can interact with nearly anything. You can shoot up, you can shoot down. The worlds they've created are epic, as you see when you play with the models. Some of the kind of the sets that people make when they're playing on the boards are incredible anyway, and that's what they've translated into the game. It's going to be pretty special, I think.
Sounds awesome. Are you a gamer yourself?
I am. I mean, I don't get very much time now. I'm a father and I'm working all the time, but I do appreciate games. I love playing them when I get the chance. I may not be up to date with everything that's going, but I definitely am someone who loves to put a controller in my hand now and again and get to it.
Do you got any favorite video games?
Fallout used to be my favorite game. I used to lose hours to that game. I would start playing at 8 o'clock at night, and then suddenly it'd be 4 or 5 in the morning. I'm like, what have I done? Red Dead Redemption is a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, all through my childhood, I was right up from Alex the Kid and Sonic the Hedgehog, all the way through, just having a Sega Mega Drive, then Nintendo, and then on the PlayStations. And I like sport games too, FIFA and all that kind of stuff. I used to play with my kids. So yeah.
Let's jump straight to Vikings. When you first got into the casting and the show started, did any of you expect the show to get this big or make this big of an impact?
Well, I mean, I was so excited about, even before I was even cast, that this project was around. Then when I read the scripts, I thought this was absolutely original and exceptional writing from Michael Hurst, but I still wasn't sure if there was an audience for it. And I've talked about this quite a lot with fans, is that I remember Gustav Skarsgård and I were sitting in the back of the minibus that would take us to and from set, and we both literally looked at each other and was like, do you think anyone's going to watch this? And because we love it, we were really getting into the scenes and the acting, and the characters are so larger than life and otherworldly. We were like, but is it going to have an audience? We wouldn't know until we finished. And then we went to San Diego Comic Con to launch season 1, because it was the first show that History Channel had, a scripted show. And we were backstage in Hall H, which is the big hall. And we just thought there was probably going to be like 3 rows of people, and we heard this like, and I just thought maybe it's a few people stamping their feet. We went out there, it wasn't people stamping their feet. There was it was packed, and the first 3 rows were fans dressed as Vikings, slamming their shields with their axes, and we were like, oh yeah, we have an audience. And I always want to thank them all. Everyone that's watching this who's a Vikings fan, is that's the reason why I was able to have like 5 of the best years of my acting career, is because you never know if you're going to get the next season. You have to wait, and if the fans watch it and the fans like it, then it's, they commission a second and a third and a fourth. So I want to thank everybody for letting me have that journey.
You have a lot of martial arts experience. Did that help you in the fight scenes?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and I used to dance as well, and martial arts and dance together help you pick up choreography quicker. It helps you be aware of your body, where it is in space. Also, your proprioceptive sense, which is your sense that is like the sixth sense, knowing when something's happening, when something goes wrong, you're able to adapt and overcome it a little bit quicker. So it definitely comes in handy. I mean, and the more you do, obviously, it just goes in, a lot quicker.
Did any big challenge occur on the set, like during any season, something that you really had to get through that was really difficult for you?
Every day. Every day there was like something. And also when we were doing the stunts, we were always encouraged by our stunt coordinators to, once you've learnt it, and we practiced it a lot, but on the day, if anything goes wrong, because there's battles with, hundreds of extras running around in the background, and there's other actors doing their hero fights at the same time as you, and we don't know what the camera is going to pick up. If something goes wrong, you just carry on. You adapt. You might have learned on your feet. If you fall over, you do it on the floor. Whatever it takes to carry on, because you don't want to be that guy that goes, "Cut! I messed up," and everyone else is like, "Well, we didn't." So that you would get swords in the face. You would get, I've got a scar here where I needed stitches, where I got a spear in my shoulder in the middle of a take, and blood was pouring down my hand. So you just. It's kind of part of the fun of it as well. I mean, once they take that away from you, you kind of like, you miss it. I really miss my time in Vikings, where you go, I really did take some punches. It did feel like you've had a proper day at work on Vikings. That's exactly what it says on the tin. It's Vikings. You kind of knew what you were signing on to. You knew it was going to be pretty grubby, pretty tough at times.
Is there any genre of TV show or movie you really like, didn't do already, but really like to do?
Yeah, loads. The first thing that comes to mind is, I love pirates, but not in the Pirates of the Caribbean sense of the word. That's great, but I've always wanted to see a show which is like Vikings, like Boardwalk Empire on HBO, that's about pirates, more about the politics of the privateers and the pirates and things, rather than actually it all being like swashbuckly kind of arr, and all on galleons in the sea and around tropical islands and treasure. No, more about the cutthroat side of it, where privateers were told to go out on the seas and they had a piece of paper from the Queen to say that they could kill the pirates, but then they would become pirates themselves, and the deals they would do around Port Royal. I would love. Maybe I should just make it. Maybe I should just write it.
Sounds good.
Cast myself.
What would you say is the biggest difference from doing TV shows and movies for you?
TV shows and movies? There's not a lot of difference for me as an actor. I think the only difference really is in a TV show and a film, just as there's a difference between a comic book and a graphic novel, I suppose, is that a TV show doesn't have a beginning, a middle, and an end, because it's constant, whereas a film definitely does have a beginning and a middle and an end. It has its climactic point, and then it has its conclusion. So the structure is very different, which means as an actor, you know how to pace your character. In a film, you know where he's going to end up in 2 hours' time. Or in a TV show, it's harder to pace your character because you have to leave something for future seasons. You need to leave somewhere further for him to travel. Or you can take him to as far as you can, and then the writers suddenly throw you a curveball and whoosh, he's a completely different character, and that's fun too. So I suppose that's the main difference between TV and film.
Do you got any future projects you can hint on already, or?
Yeah, I've been working quite a lot. I've got Space Marine 2 that's still working on. There might be another computer game that I'm not actually allowed to talk about. Then I've got Possessions, which is a movie I finished during the pandemic, which is a bit like The Shining. It's a thriller about a father and his son gets possessed. And it's pretty shocking. Then I have just done a small role on a secret Netflix TV show. And then I'm currently going back from Vienna to film The Morning Show for Apple TV with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, and doing a few episodes on that right now.
Okay, maybe this final question. Do you got any tips for young actors that now get into movies, TV shows, acting in the age of streaming services?
In the age of streaming services? Well, there's a lot more work. There's a lot more TV now, which is great. It's like it's kind of the golden age of TV, I suppose. But if you're just getting into acting, the most important thing is to know that I think you do the job for free. It's all the auditions, all the rejection, all of the time spent learning lines for stuff that you don't get, having to travel backwards and forwards for things. That's what you get paid for. And it's not for everyone. So just because you like the idea of acting, you've got to counter in the other side to it as well. You know, I was taught by Brian Cox, who's now in Succession, when I was at drama school many years ago, and he used to say, if you really want to act, don't. But if you have to. So there you go. I pass that advice on from him to you.
Thanks for your time. It was great.
Thanks ever so much.